Hello, everyone. My name is Sherman Germs, and I have something pretty special to show you. And it happens to be these cactuses right over here. Alright, enough joking aside. I have these TNT cannons. And the story behind them are very interesting. So, we have this world called Beleriand that, yeah, I know, easy to pronounce, but uh, it's like it's really undecided what it is. It's mostly medieval. It's mostly kind of fantasy medieval. Um, it's very interesting because we have these TNT cannons that I introduced to them, and they've improved and changed as time went on. And I have different variants, all labeled marks with no Roman numerals. So it's very interesting, and so just gonna show them. First, we have the Mark One. This is a very simplistic one, and I use iron as a base block, but you can use whatever you want. If you want to build these cannons, I would not recommend rebuilding this one. This one just expanded from the experience I'd had with TNT cannons on faction servers with my friends. It takes two people to fire, so you would press this one. Oh crap, lag, lag, lag. Alright, so here's how it goes. You would press this one, and then you would press this one. And see, that was one of the problems I had with the cannon. I'm glad it did that. I had a slab under here, and that would help, like, the TNT right here in the water stream conduct the explosion and send this flying. However that works, science, crap like that. But sometimes if it fell in there, it would just shoot right forward. That's why these pools of water had to be placed in front of them. No! Dang it, no! Alright, good thing these are really easy to rebuild. Wait, am I doing this right? Man, I thought I said enough joking around, but this has gone pretty far. But yeah, Mark 1, you would go right there, and then press that one, and if it didn't land on the slab, then boom, it would shoot. But then again, it might also shoot in a random direction instead of straight like you would want it to. And only 2 of these were ever built in Beleriand, but they were soon torn down. Alright, next we have is the Mark II. This was, my whole goal with this is to try and make a cannon that could be fired, that could be operated by one person. It took just one person to fire. And that was the Mark II. And so, it is much wider. It's 4 blocks wider, so I could make room for the redstone repeaters and everything that had to be put in there. And it still has a slab and everything. All it is just widened so that it could make room for the stuff to make it be used by one person. And so yes, it can be used by one person, but still all the other flaws of the Mark I still applied to it. Such as that it needed the thing of water, it was still somewhat inaccurate and could misfire. But this one was placed all over the kingdom of Beleriand. A lot of them were placed, and I had to install these little pools of water when I figured out that they needed that. But it was crazy. Because of this one having all its flaws, including the fact that it was wider, which I did not like. I wanted to design my next TNT cannon to be thinner, more accurate, doesn't misfire, doesn't need the pool of water in front, and could still be operated by one person. So, finally, what I came up with was the Mark III, and this one was probably one of the most widely used in our Kingdom of Beleriand. And so, yeah, it has everything. The slab and the block right here, help keep its accuracy, and instead of using a slab, I use a stair, which still allows the TNT to push the charge or whatever. I can't English well. Gosh, I gotta stop. Anyway. I thought I said to stop. So yeah, that is the Mark III, and I'm gonna fire it off for you guys. And so it kept a much more straight trajectory. And by the way, the cannons could be like whatever length long. The standard ones, like the Mark III, tended to have 3 pieces of TNT in the charge, or 4. I just have 3 as an easy example. And however many pieces of TNT they would have, I would call them by pounders, kind of like the British guns. This would be a 3-pounder. Any higher would be 4, 5, 6, 7, yeah. Moving on then. Since I had felt like I had perfected the design, a friend of mine who is pretty much a pirate in real life and in Minecraft, he wanted a cannon that could be placed on a ship. So I thought the best way to do that would just be to shorten it. Well, 1 piece of TNT is pathetically weak, so 2 pieces is the minimum, and coming of that was the Mark IV 2-pounder ship cannon, which it's the same thing, but just designed for ships. Doesn't shoot as far, but ship combat is much closer together to each other. So, next one was just a fun experiment of mine. This is the Mark V double shot. Now I don't know what happened, but the lag. I am face palming so hard right now. Anyway, the Mark V was an interesting experiment. Double shot. And the weird thing was... Oh, please don't lag. Now, the weird thing about this cannon was that when I built the first 2 prototypes on Belediend, for some reason they shot in a V pattern. Now, for some reason, I can't seem to recreate that. I don't know what happened. When I rebuild these dang things, they do not shoot in the V pattern. I'm not sure. It's just, it's weird. But, so... But anyway, I'll just fire this off to you. So yeah, that's how they kind of shoot. It was very interesting. Very interesting experiment, but I tore my 2 prototypes that I had built on Belediend down. One of them I actually put on the front of my ship, which was a huge iron ship. It was crazy. And the second one was just kind of it was just kind of built on like a little beach that was kind of just that I had used for TNT cannon testing. But since they shot in the V pattern, and also the one on my ship blew up the front of it twice, I tore them down. But for some reason, when I rebuilt it, it doesn't shoot in the V pattern. I don't know why. I just don't know. Alright, next we have is the Mark VI. Once again, I was still experimenting because I had pretty much perfected my design. This one, I wanted to see how much TNT it could use. Well, the maximum amount of distance water will travel until it ends in one direction is 7. So this is the Mark VI 7-pounder. And, yeah, this thing's crazy. And a couple of these things we actually built a couple of these things out in a mountain range in Belediend, which is pretty cool. And they shoot so far, and they can touch the mountains on the other side. But now, for pretty much the last 3 designs, I had felt that the design was perfected. But lo and behold, another friend of mine came along and told me that, why don't you just use dispensers? It would be much more efficient, and so he gave me like an example, and that became the self-loading. So you can just stack these things up with TNT, press the button, and let it do the rest. I mean, I always knew that TNT would ignite when put through a dispenser, but I just never thought of it. And the design stayed relatively the same, just with dispensers. And so, holy crap. A lot of interesting things would open up from here on out. And so now, because of the Mark 7, that's what it was, the Mark 7 autoloader, came some interesting experiments, like the Mark 8, which I couldn't have done before, which is my standard ones, just having the TNT in the water. This one is a still water version. The water isn't flowing, so the TNT will stay still. I just wanted to see it, how it would work, and it's actually very interesting. Instead of flying very far up, it actually stayed at a pretty decent level. And so I might actually want to propose that. I haven't actually proposed it as an actual design. It's still just experimental, sitting here in my test range with my lovely houses behind it. Now moving on to the Mark 9, which I decided, hey, why not I bring the idea of the Mark 5 back in an autoloader version. So this is the Mark 9 double autoloader. It's actually very interesting. Something I want to point out real quick is that a design like this, it's only a 3-pounder, but my autoloaders at the same length are 4-pounders because I can have one right here without worrying about the water going away. Because, yeah, but it's very interesting. Just want to point that out. But the double autoloader, it's crazy. It's the widest one I've made so far because I had to have these arms. And oddly enough, when I built this prototype, it had the same problem that the original prototypes for the Mark V had. Even though I can't recreate those prototypes for some reason, I don't know why. The Mark 9, it shoots in a V pattern. So here we go. So yeah. Now, I think I know why this one shot in a V pattern. I'm not sure why that one did. Maybe the I don't know. Maybe it's me, or maybe I actually remember building the prototypes. Maybe I don't remember, and I built the prototypes differently than this, but I'm just not sure. It was very interesting, but it's not really going to be that practical at all, because I actually made a better double autoloader that we'll get to in a bit. Anyway, well now here are my most recent designs from like the past week. These were very recent designs. Next one is the Mark 10, or as we like to call it, the Mark X. Can it just stop? Just stop. Jeez. By the way, the Mark 10 is the double-decker. This thing is interesting because it has 8. It has 8 freaking charges, so it would be an 8-pounder. And it's just crazy. You just gotta see this thing. So there's charges, and it stays pretty low because of this, which you kind of have to have this here, otherwise a TNT from this dispenser could fall on to the stair, and that's not good at all. It will blow up the front of the cannon. So, kind of have to have that, but there's something interesting that can come from it. But before we get to that, first we have a variant of the Mark 7. So, we've been starting to work with variants recently. And so right now, the Mark 7 is my standard autoloader, and I've designed, and this is what I like to call the Mark 7 Shorty, which has a short barrel on the front of it. I think it looks pretty cool, and it helps keep the TNT at a flat level distance, and most of the time, I would actually see this thing being used to actually shoot things that are slightly below it. So yeah, pretty interesting. Next, this is the Mark 10 railgun. This thing is a freaking beast of a thing. Actually, the first railgun design was actually built by 2 friends of mine, one of them being the person who introduced the dispensers for the autoloader. He came up with the double-decker design. I copied it into my official designs. And the first official, cannon he actually built with this design had this long barrel, and they called it the railgun. So, Yeah, and I have a barrel that is 8 blocks long. If you want to go longer, you can, but I find 8 blocks to be a good distance for 8 pieces of TNT. So, if you want to add more and make it even crazier, then go ahead. But yeah, this is the Mark 10 railgun. It's nice to have that little pool of water over there. But yeah, probably one of my favorites. And finally, we have moved on to the Mark 9. It is my recreation of the double auto loader cannon, and it took some tinkering. This thing is 5 blocks long, which is the same as the original Mark 5 double manual loader. But this one, it is an extra block longer and an extra block taller than most of my cannons. But it does work, and it shoots straight like it should. So here we go. So look at that. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed this video. Please leave a like and comment if you did. Subscribe if you're new and stuff, and you enjoyed these videos. Check out my other videos if you want to. I think they're really good, especially the new ones I have. And go check out Fam Studios as well. And this one, the concept for this video was recommended to me by Matthew, who's the one currently He's like the one currently running Phantom Studios right now. And I know not a whole lot's going on there, but hopefully sometime in the near future we can get more content out to you. I know that we actually have 2 skits coming this Christmas. 2 Jedi off-duty skits that are coming this Christmas. I'm not going to say what they are, but we're planning them, and we're really hoping that we can get them out to you. So, anyway, hope you all enjoyed this video about cactuses and